What's happening? Benton here. I already have a few comments in the chat, which I won't be reading after this until I read it again, of course. But I have a few points I would like to hit before that. Razvan says, "Welcome back." Gordon Zola, uh, apparently we're taking requests, says he would like to hear some stories about shopping for eggs. Well, that's going to happen. Disembodied voices and everyday bozos. Oh, okay. Can do times three, presumably. The voice is gone for now. Keep up with the lore. I don't even know what that means, Razvan. That's how far out of the loop I am on the lore. Angry Rooster, been a minute. All right, good to see you back up. Yeah, no, my well being is fantastic. Yeah, absolutely. My well being, and that's probably the main topic is definition and identification of the self in relation to this realm and what it expects, the status quo, um, in general, what's expected of someone as a member of society. But however, what's not told is that that is only ever in the framework of business and corporations and finance and money. So, yes, absolutely. Uh, Identification and definition of oneself in relation to this place. And this place uh, being designed to where all of that is only ever reconciled based upon business, finance, corporations, etc. And that's where all of the political talk falls flat. That's where all of the so-called truther material falls flat, is because it's simply impossible to reconcile my own humanity. Let's not even say humanity. What I am, let's be specific. What I am can never define itself in relation to a delusory realm of business, because if it can, then it's not what it purports to be. See, now we're into square peg and round hole, right? If what I am is willing to define itself in relation to a delusory, Delsory, I think. There's a U in there somewhere. I'm more of a visual speller. Delusory. My apologies. So, with true knowledge of self, right, Mr. Benton accessing and operating based on true knowledge of self, what I am, strictly speaking, is incapable of identifying or defining itself in relation to this realm of business, money, corporations. And make no mistake, this is an adversarial realm, for business itself is adversarial. And I do mean the dictionary definition of the term adversarial. And it's also a realm where people pretend like it's a team sport. They pretend like, okay, it's a society, it's a nation, it's an economy, right? But that's not the reality on the ground. Is it's every man and woman for himself and herself, because the realm itself is adversarial, because the realm is entirely based on what? Business. There's nothing, and especially America, there's nothing that is not a business. And go to naming things that you think is not a business, and I will happily tell you that you're wrong. And I will tell you how you're wrong. Right? Now, how can an individual accept what I'm saying and simultaneously get through their day. Not my problem. I spent 15 plus years walking a walk and various practices and getting my shit together so that I have transcended these limitations. None of this even applies to me anymore, right? Uh, because what I am, again, can never be defined in relation to a delusory realm of business and finance and money. See, that's an impossibility. So, a big part of the inversion of this realm is from day one, the psychology is designed to where each individual on an ongoing basis consistently observes themselves in relation to their own ability to serve and air quotes be productive within a delusory realm of business and corporations. And that is what's happening here. So, and because the enemy, right, the delusion's huge advantage is that, well, number one, the parent, knowingly or unknowingly, has sacrificed the child to Moloch, the god of what? Industry, business, wealth, accumulation, right? Accumulation, the storing up of wealth, right? The pagan god Moloch. Described perfectly in Allen Ginsberg's famous poem Howl. And there's not a lot of famous American poems. So the fact that that's one that some folks, well, hell, they even made a movie about it. Okay. So, the fact that I'm even bringing up poems at all, should mean something. So, as part of this sacrifice to Moloch, the baby being sacrificed to Moloch, Moloch now gets to design, install, and operate the psychology. And that psychology, one of the major early inversions is the young child is taught to view themselves and their identity and their worth based upon how are they accepted and viewed within the delusory realm of business and financial transactions, the transactional society. Meanwhile, but see, we haven't reconciled Nancy Pelosi's MS-13 spark of divinity. We haven't reconciled the idea of one nation under God, a Christian nation, and what it portends. See, none of that's been reconciled. See, now some will say, "Oh, well, there's stuff in the Bible about business." That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the nature of the child, the spiritual innocence, right? The incorruptibility of the highest form of love and creation possible, right? The highest levels of vibrational frequency and creative force possible at the highest levels, also known as what I am. That's what I am. See? And that's never definable in relation to anything other than what? Itself. The antithesis is defined based on what I am, not the reverse. So what antithesis does, antithesis says, okay, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to have first shot at these little children psychologically, and I'm going to turn this backwards. And I'm going to have these cream of the crop, spiritually perfect entities. Again, if that's what they are. That's what I know myself to be. I can't be sure that anybody else is that. That's why I call it Nancy Pelosi's MS-13 spark of divinity, or the system mocking whatever individual fits into that basket. That's a mocking song. This little light of mine, I'm going to let it shine. Antithesis says, hold my beer. What I'm going to do is I'm going to have these little children defining themselves in relation to me: death, destruction, delusion, depravity, decadence. They're going in business and transactions, and man will dominate man unto his own injury. I'm going to have them viewing themselves through that lens, where their reward is to do what? Their reward comes from being productive, air quotes, being productive and serving this evil, wicked system of things, while simultaneously people who don't understand anything about the Bible, religion, spirituality, or any of these topics will say, oh, yeah, we'll be in the world, not of the world. Well, but then there was this big campaign called What Would Jesus Do? And that always bothered me for some reason. And I never knew why. I've got spidey sense, but the spidey sense doesn't necessarily say, hey, here's why this bothers you. It just always bothered me. And then that's yet another inversion. Who cares what Jesus would do? Who gives a fuck what Jesus would do? What I find relevant is what would Jesus not do if he was here today? And I'm guarantee you he would not be lining up to serve corporations, financial transactions, investor capital, and trying to brand himself or trying to become wealthy in a system of delusion. So it never was what would Jesus do? See, that's the inversion. What's helpful is what would Jesus not do? And I'm here to tell you what Jesus would not do is what, if you go to a Christian church, what Jesus would not do is what damn near everybody in your church, effectively 100% of your church, does with its time every day, all day, which is serve this system of business, right? And the adversarial part of it is, well, there's hardcore groups that identify as, well, we're Republican, we're right wing, we're traditional family values. And then there's other groups that, they identify in opposition to that, right? And well, we're churchgoers and we're about family. And I'm going to tell you, here's the most overrated motherfucking thing in America is family. Let's just go ahead and call it what it is. I see no examples of loving families. And I mean none. I don't see any. I'm not saying they don't exist, right? I'm saying that if they do exist, it's something that's so rare. What's the point of even focusing on it? I understand the brainwashing and the psychological programming has been such that, it's been pretty much just an accepted fact that, there's all this love amongst families. I don't see it. Where? You're going to have to show me. And I'm not from Missouri. Would never claim to be from Missouri, but you got to show me, Jack. To me, that's one of the most overrated things. And what better way to reinforce the mind control of serving this system of business? Because a person can lament what I'm saying. Someone can hear me. They can hear my words and say, wow, Benton's right. Yeah, we are all serving this system of business. But then at the end of the day, it all comes back to, well, I've got to take care of my family. I love my family. I've got kids. Is that love, though? If Jesus wouldn't do it, right? If Jesus wouldn't do it, how can it be loving towards your family to do things that Jesus wouldn't do? And see, this is where the logic breaks down. And this is why I'm here, right? This is why Benton is here. Because Benton has taught himself how to brutally apply the logic across the board. And I see that most folks are unable to do this. And it's interesting because in the past, I had an idea that, well, actually, I was never quite as intelligent as other people in Arkansas took me for. And then at a certain point, it was like, yeah, and, probably these people around me aren't quite as dumb as they seem. It's absolutely not. No, they're way dumber than I ever suspected. Even people that I thought were intelligent, even people that I believed to be intelligent in the so-called truth community, a bunch of dumbos, a bunch of morons when it comes to being able to do what? Utilize logic, right? Because what I just said is logical. How can it be loving towards your family if what you're doing, Jesus himself, were he here, wouldn't do it? Jesus wasn't off to work with his lunch pail, folks. Now, I understand the Bible claims that he was trained as a carpenter in his youth. So what? So what? I was trained as a basketball player in my youth. What's that have to do with what I do today? Right? You know, I've taught myself to do many things. What does that have to do with anything? Right? As an adult, when did Jesus pick up his lunch pail and go off to the salt mines because he had a family to support and he loved them? Right? When did that happen? I don't remember that part of the Bible. So I don't remember that happen. When did it happen? So, and this is also how we know there's no problem solving, right? Because if there was actual Christian problem solving, well, the first thing we would do is say, well, if Jesus was here, what would he not do? Well, he wouldn't go off to work every day to make a bunch of rich people richer. I can guarantee you that. So we know for a fact if Jesus was here, he would not go off to work every day to make rich people richer. We can be 100% certain of that. Okay. So there's your starting point. Not what would Jesus do? That's backwards. What would Jesus not do were he here? He would not go to work every day to make rich people richer. That would never happen. That's a 0% impossibility. 0% possibility. And it wouldn't matter how much he loved his family. It wouldn't matter that he had kids, right? His circumstances wouldn't play into it because principles don't involve circumstances. See? When a being has a code and principles that the being adheres to, the circumstances play no part, right? The circumstances are not relevant. So what we have is a bunch of bozos in America who have no choice but to fit themselves into a system that demands that they identify themselves in relation to a system that many folks are now willing to consider is fake, right? And apparently that's a big thing in the algorithm now is and I'm even seeing it's gotten to the point where now creators, some smaller channels, I saw this one guy, he made his video "Everything is Fake" was the title, but he didn't even talk about that. He just in the first 20 seconds he just said it a few times and then he went on to whatever he wanted to cover because he understood that, well, you know, even if he doesn't get more views, the algorithm's at least going to push his video out farther if he puts "Everything is Fake" in the title. Now, see, that fake isn't the word, right? There's another word that we hear a lot to describe modernity, and I don't believe it to be the proper word, but it's vapid. You ever hear that word vapid, V-A-P-I-D? So what I've figured out is most of the time, and especially some of these Gen Z, some of these younger black pills, and I don't know, all the colors have too many different meanings, so I'm not even going to get into the pill talk. But a lot of the Gen Z doomers, uh, I've noticed talk about that. That hit my feed. I kind of sidetracked myself there, but bear with me. I'll get back on track. Oh yeah, vapid. I hear them say the word vapid a lot. And I think also so many people are now using Chat GPT to do their writing. I think maybe for whatever reason, you know, that term's just getting used a lot. Well, the actual word is vacuous. It's a way better fit when people use vapid. Vacuous almost always fits better. So when people say, oh, the world is fake, right? Everything's fake. What they don't understand that they mean the dictionary definition of the word vacuous. So let me read you the dictionary definition of the word vacuous. Vacuous means empty, void, lacking meaningful content. Synonyms: empty or vacant. Thesaurus: empty. Number two, showing a lack of thought or intelligence. Vacant. And then, as I've been quite skillful at lately, getting to other words, related terms. Well, synonyms would be empty-headed, brainless, thesaurus, stupid, right? So it's a stupid world, right? But oh, now we're being negative. We can't observe the stupidity around us and report on it because now we're being negative. See, but the thesaurus says stupid because the thesaurus the thesaurus. Wow, that's hard to say. Doesn't understand that things have changed to where people can't be negative anymore, right? So, related terms: vacant, vacuous truth, and vacuum. Now we're on to something. You want to talk about what this place is? Vacuum, a region of space that contains no matter. And don't truthers, don't the doesn't the so-called truth community, myself included, apparently, accept as fact, right? Doesn't it accept as fact that that physical matter, in fact, is not a thing, and that everything's vibrating energy, right? AKA a vacuum, right? So yeah, no, this realm of delusion can only ever be a vacuum. It can only ever be a void. It can only ever be lacking of content. Why? Because the delusory realm is the antithesis of what? Of what I am. The highest form of love and creative force possible at the highest levels of vibrational frequency, a quickening spirit. See? So this place can never have life. Only what? The illusion of life. So we can't say, you can say the money's fake. And I say, well, I don't know. I just used some of it already today. I'm not quite sure what you mean there. Oh, you mean vacuous? You mean empty? You mean void? You mean not having real substance? A region of space that contains no matter? Vacuum also, listen to this, an emptiness in life created by a loss of a person who was close or of an occupation. Now, see, this is the key point. Occupation. Why is that important? Because the occupation, that's how the person defines themselves in relation to the delusory realm of business. Their occupation is all important. See. However, if deep down, symbolically, at a subconscious level, all of the individuals who may be here, again, having to account for solipsism, but in a thought experiment that maybe, there's actually other discrete beings other than myself here. Give me just a moment. Traffic jam. Kind of lost my point there, but I feel like it's going to come back. something about occupation and business and defining oneself and being productive. And again, everybody knows that's coded language. When you hear be productive, that only ever means go out here and productively enrich a business's profit. But now we're back to what wouldn't Jesus do if Jesus was here? Jesus absolutely, with 100% certainty, would not do what I just described. But then psychologically, I'm in a realm where if I'm unable or unwilling to define myself based on occupation, based on how I relate to a delusory adversarial realm of business, see, do you see that that is the primary psychological malfunction of the individual? It might be. Oh, I remember what I was going to say. It was about subconsciously, if everyone is what I am, and having this human experience and having a subconscious mind that perfectly decodes all symbols, guess what? Everybody knows this motherfucker ain't real, meaning a vacuum, meaning vacuous, right? Devoid of content. Guess what? I am the content. I'm here. This realm can't provide me content. What can this realm provide to me? What about this place could I possibly be dependent upon? And see, my thinking has accelerated so rapidly, and I've now transcended and gone to such heights, mind, body, and spirit, that my thinking has progressed so far beyond people that I, up until recently, assumed to be at least as intellectually accomplished and capable as myself, if not more so. Now Now I see myself running circles around those people. Imagine that. Imagine enjoying something like a sport or a pastime or thinking, right? And ideas and logic, and having respect for someone based on those shared notions.
Shares,
right?
all the shares of goddamn everything.
Sir, your discourse is incomprehensible. Sir, your discourse is incomprehensible. See, nobody's got nothing to say till I have something to say. Oh, man. Well, that fella kind of demonstrated it. Now, what I mean by running circles around is there's a content creator in the space, and I just happened to catch what's probably his most recent community post, right? And I read it, I skimmed it, and I immediately spotted his own statement that disproved his entire thesis. It was right there in his own argument. So this otherwise intelligent person sat down and typed out, right, an artifice of language and then presented it to the rest of us. I took one look at it and said, well, here's what's wrong with it. Took one look at it and said, well, here's what's wrong with it, after I got through the parts that were obviously designed to have somebody like me react to them, right? You know, once I got past my knee-jerk reaction and realized, oh, well, they're trying to get out here, right? But then I read further, and before I even had time to come up with my own reasons to destroy this person's assertions, it was right there in their own assertion. Because the person described, quote, I think they said, we are dependent upon, and then gave some sort of description of the various systems of modernity. Oh, I'm going to need you to show your work there, buddy, because what I am can't possibly ever be dependent upon any of that, sir. So now we're going to get into who exactly was meant by we. Did you mean humankind? Do you mean every being that's apparently in a human body? Is that what you mean? Because it seems to me like those systems are in fact dependent upon the beings. Right. What it seems to me. To do what? To continue to perpetuate the systems. Because the systems of mankind, of humankind, of this realm of delusion, make no mistake, those systems are created moment by moment in real time based on the collective creative output of all of the beings that are here. Or maybe it's just me, again, back to solipsism. Maybe I'm doing all of this. I don't know. What I am can never experience a lack or a need. See, what I am can never have need of a system within a delusion, regardless of how complicated, how pervasive, right, or how necessary the system itself may seem, because the system, right, because the content creator who purported a collective dependence upon these modern systems, right, is not accounting for what? Okay, sir, in what context? Who exactly is dependent and under what context or contexts? Right. And this is the stupidity of even somebody like myself, who in the past would have just accepted what was being said and not questioned. Right. They say, oh, well, question everything. Well, that's not going to go very far, I can assure you. Okay, question everything. Okay, in what context are you speaking here? And who do you mean that's dependent on these systems? Right. Because I know exactly what I am. I am the most super intelligent force of love and creation possible at the highest levels of vibrational frequency, a quickening spirit. There's nothing in this place that I could possibly have need of, because what I am is the source of everything. Everything that is emanates from the same source that I emanate from. Right? How was the delusion created? Which came first? The most super intelligent force of love and creation possible at the highest levels of vibrational frequency, a quickening spirit, or this realm of delusion and business? Which came first? I would assert that all potentialities are contained within the most super intelligent force of love and creation possible at the highest levels of vibrational frequency, a quickening spirit. That's what I would assert. See? And I would use that to say, well, if somebody wants to assert that humankind is dependent upon these various systems, then I would say, well, that's humankind's problem, because I'm clearly not humankind. Because humankind, if they are what I am, can't possibly be dependent upon any of that. It's just not possible. That can never happen. Right? What I am is not capable of allowing that to happen. See, now we talk about where. We say, okay, now this is where we get into an internalization versus an externalization. Many people will hear me say that, and then they'll say, well, okay, now you're deputized. Now you have to go out here and fix this delusion. Absolutely not. Because I will answer all questions for myself. Where? Inside of myself, inside of my sphere of influence. I'm only speaking within my own power center, which is my sphere of influence. I have almost no power outside of my own sphere of influence, virtually none. So again, the inversion, the delusion from day one has everybody directing all of their efforts outwardly away from their power center, right? Dissipate their own energies externally where they can never bear fruit. Oh, wait a minute. Are we getting into the Bible again? You know the tree by the fruit? You know the tree by the fruit? Interesting. Well, that's why I could go to a church and say, sir, all churches are demonic. They say, what do you mean? I say, well, the Christian church has a Bible and it says, you know the tree by the fruit. Well, I'm looking at the fruit that comes out of churches and I'm saying it's demonic fruit. That's how I know. That's how I know the churches are demonic. I mean, that's fucking basic and obvious, right? That's basic and obvious. But again, now we're back to the social contract of business. Oh, but sir, you don't understand. We've all agreed in this adversarial realm of business, we're all going to pretend like this is one of the ways we love our families is we take them off to church and we teach them right. Oh, you can't keep them at the house and teach them right? It takes a village, huh? What's that village do? See, you know the village by the fruit also, don't you? Right? Does anybody look around and see anything worth lauding or upholding? When I walk around every day, I don't see anything. Now, again, I'm speaking very generally and broadly. I see almost nothing worth lauding or upholding as an example to say, this is something to celebrate, right? I see absolutely no precedent for human beings getting together and helping each other, and that at the end of the road, everybody ends up in a superior state to where they started. I don't see that. I've never seen that. It's just that everybody's gotten together and agreed that this is just how it is. Make the world a better place. Oh, but question everything. Okay, let me question, make the world a better place. Do you believe the world's a good place? Because how can I make it a better place if it's not a good place? Right? See, you see, the game is right there. The game is right there. It's inverted. Because if people went around saying make the world a less bad place, see, if people went around saying that, you know, what do? Then the game is on display. So it has to be a good place. So we've actually, from day one, antithesis and Moloch's machine has removed even the possibility of the world being a bad place, while simultaneously almost everybody is willing at some point to acknowledge just how evil and wicked the world is. And see, this is why gaslighting only works on stupid people. Because with every gaslight attempt, if a person stays logical and just brings everything back to the basics, as soon as they start to gaslight me, I just say, okay, well, do you really want to defend the idea that their evil doesn't exist in the world? And at first they try to ignore me. This happened in the live chat recently. First they try to ignore me, and I'm like, no, listen, I said, we're not moving forward until this gaslighter, he's going to have to answer yes or no. Is he asserting that evil does not exist? Because his entire gaslight attempt was based on offering me the opportunity, right? He was offering me the opportunity to identify with a world in which evil does not exist. And then to internalize that as a spiritual attack against myself. See? And that's what I've realized about this realm. This realm is a never ending series of offers that you would choose to improperly identify with the validity of the realm itself, and refusing to properly identify with what, again, I don't know what you are. So really, I should only speak for myself. It's a never, moment to moment, this realm is a never ending series of offers. So in each now, in almost every moment now, I am properly identified, but I still fall away from that from time to time. See, and then I go right back to where I started. See, that's how the meditation works. That's why meditation has been so critical to me. I don't give a fuck if y'all do it. That's your business. I know most folks is lazy and ain't going to do no meditation. That's fine. What's that got to do with me? And that's why I love my life, is because this is a wholly individual experience spiritually. And all these bozos who run around saying, well, pull yourself up by your bootstraps, go out here and be a Christian, but don't do like Jesus, because Jesus would never go out here and serve these rich people with his own blood, sweat, and tears. But you need to go out here and you need to define yourself based on all of that. See? That's what they'll say to me. But why are they saying it? They're not saying it because they love me. They're not saying it out of any regard for me. They're saying it from an adversarial position. See? Man will dominate man unto his own injury. It's adversarial. It's to get an advantage in business. See? Because some business somewhere, if I'm dumb enough to rent them my time, my talents, and just my general awesomeness at a discounted price, see, they benefit. The adversarial part is maybe someone else can find a benefit for themselves in that. See? Always seeking the advantage over their fellow man. Again, what wouldn't Jesus do if he was here? I'm pretty sure if Jesus was here, he wouldn't be seeking every advantage possible over his fellow man, right? So the same people who will imply that I'm lazy for refusing employment, right, and for refusing to help rich people get richer, right, I already know those same people are too motherfucking lazy to practice and walk and think in order to progress to the level I've progressed to. And believe me, it's still happening. It's still happening. And so those are the people who will tell me that I'm lazy. And I'm just looking at them like, well, wait a minute, I've put myself through fucking a series of very arduous undertakings and challenges, right? I didn't have to. I chose to, right? And who gets the reward for that? I do. Nobody else does. That only accrues to me. That doesn't accrue to rich people. That doesn't accrue to a delusory realm of business. You know what my reward is for 15 years of hard ass work? No more fear, no more guilt, no more shame, no more stress, no more anxiety. I've been delivered. I don't experience any of that anymore. And when I do, for the briefest of moments, my meditation kicks in and says, hey, buddy, looks like you weren't properly identified for the last 3 to 4 moments. So you better go ahead and properly identify with what you know yourself to be, and then it just goes away. So when I wake up in the morning now, sometimes I have a thought or two about, well, what am I going to do for a living in the future? How am I going to get money? Blah, blah, blah. And then I observe my physicality and I think to myself, oh, that's right. That's dead. Fear is dead. Fear can't ever have life. Guilt is dead. Guilt can't ever have life. Shame is dead. Shame can't ever have life. We don't even know what that is. What I am can't even have a concept of fear. What I am can't even have a concept of guilt. What I am can't even have a concept of shame. Only within a realm of delusion, via delusion, am I maybe experiencing those things. I can never be sure because I wouldn't know it when I saw it. Right? This is like the opposite of that idea of the Supreme Court and obscenity. Oh, we know it when we see it. I have no fucking idea. I'm talking about fear, guilt, and shame, and who knows? I don't fucking know what that is. Whatever they seem to be, I know their nature. Their nature is death. It's the nature of this place. The nature of fear is the nature of this place. Death. The nature of guilt is the nature of this place. Death. The nature of shame is the nature of this place. Death. The nature of business is the nature of this place. Death. There can never be any life to business. Are you kidding me? Imagine being an American and identifying with it being a good idea to tie how each human feeds themselves every day to business. Does that sound like a good idea to anybody? That in order to feed myself, a rich person needs to get richer somewhere, right? Because make no mistake, that's the systems, right? When somebody wants to talk about, oh, well, we, and I don't even know what he meant, but, humanity apparently is dependent upon these complex, systems, right? Yeah, because humanity's fucking stupid. That's why. Meanwhile, again, what I am can never have need of any of that. Because no matter what happens, this life, right, whatever this life is within this delusion, it ends anyway. Whether that's in the next moment, whether that's 10 years from now, we don't know, right? But so again, now we're back to the internalization. Get the being to internalize that what? Well, I must be wicked, I must be sinful, I must be decadent, I must be depraved. No, that's the realm. The realm is all of those things. I don't even have the capacity to conceptualize those things. I had to come here, right, and inhabit a delusion to even know what the fuck you're talking about. Otherwise, I'm like Jack from Jack and the Beanstalk. I don't know what you're talking about. What do you mean? Be careful, or they're going to try to rob me. Like what? I don't know what you're talking about. Yeah. And if people could just be honest with themselves, they would say, well, individually, a lot of us, again, people individually, well, a lot of us are dependent on all of that because we want things. We desire things. We want to get a nicer car. We want to get certain clothes. We want our kids to have certain activities, right? Again, what wouldn't Jesus do, right? Those are all preferences. And if people think they're Christians and they think that they're going to go to a judgment, and that they're going to get to that judgment, and what they did based on their own preferences is going to matter at all. They're fooling themselves, but they can't be honest with themselves and just say, well, yeah, I'm not shit, because I can't even overcome my own childish desire for trinkets and baubles. See, and the fact is, most of the people in this place are beneath me at that level. They simply are. Most people in this place are beneath me when it comes to such matters, right? But again, they can't just say, yeah, you're right. I want to climb the corporate ladder. I want a certain income because I want to drive a certain car. I want to live in a certain neighborhood. I want my kids to have a certain type of life. And, I want to take in certain types of entertainment. That's why I'm out here doing what Jesus wouldn't do and serving to make rich people richer through my own blood, sweat, and tears every day. Because I want things. See, that would be respectable. See, that I could respect because at least it's honest and it's real. But they'll never own it. And this system is designed to always, and this is one of the themes of the TV show Mad Men, this realm is designed so that whatever the person is doing moment to moment via consumption and desire and preference and how they're viewed, it's always okay, right? Whether it's the smoking of the cigarette, the drinking of the beer, right? The driving of the car, whatever the branding is, it's the constant reassuring to the individual that what they're doing right now is perfectly okay. As long as it does what? Serves business. Again, what wouldn't Jesus do? Jesus's day would never be a day that advertising and rich people and corporations could look at and say, this is going to ensure that our stock price keeps going up. Right. In fact, if they ever came across somebody like Jesus, they would say, oh man, we better make sure this net doesn't catch on. Otherwise, our business model's fucked. If these people actually started following the example, right, of what may or may not have been an historical person, again, my own beliefs or my own thoughts, who cares? Right? But I know this, you could not have a world of rich fat cats and bankers and exploitation if most people did what Jesus would do, or more correctly, refuse to do things that Jesus would not do. Jesus would not come here to serve corporations and make rich people richer. That would never happen. Not for 1 second. And never would come the moment where Jesus would say, well, I guess it's time to go get a job because, this is day 4 of me not eating. So I guess I better go down and see if McDonald's is hiring. Right? That moment never comes. Because of why? Because principles can't be connected to circumstances. And that's where the bozos and the so-called truth community fail, is because they say, well, I've got a family, I've got mouths to feed, we live in a world, and therefore I must go do these things. No, those are circumstances. Those are choices, right? And the fact is, even if it is a delusion, and it is, but even within this realm of delusion, guess what? And this is where simulation theory comes in. Hey, maybe it's just me down here performing. I don't know. Again, solipsism has to be on the table. But let's assume that everybody, again, Nancy Pelosi's MS-13 spark of divinity, right? That this little light of mine, and I'm going to let it shine. See, that's a mass of people with no principles, right? Those are people their principles are based on their circumstances, right? but then they have to be good people. Like the world has to be a good place, and they have to be good people because there's no other possibilities because hey, they just came out of their mom and then were socialized and well, you have to work and you have to do this, you have to do that. Well, unless you're Jesus. Yeah, no, well, unless you're Jesus. Because when did Jesus do any of that? Oh, well, he was a carpenter. When he was 12? Motherfucker, I ain't talking about what he did when he was 12. I'm talking about what he did when he was 28. Was Jesus punching a clock when he was 28? Nope. Oh, but he was trained as a carpenter. Don't care. I tell you, it ain't about what would Jesus do. It's what Jesus wouldn't do. And he would not come here and serve corporations to make rich people richer. Not for 1 minute. And if he was on he could be on day 50 of not eating. He's not going to go to McDonald's and apply for a job. I guess he'll probably at some point just go like, well, I guess I'm going to starve to death now. Because his principle is he doesn't make rich people richer. See, that's his principle. He don't participate in that. And it doesn't matter what the circumstances are. And that's how you know it's a principle or not. Because if it's circumstantial, it's not a principle. It's just, a thing that I think I have this thing about myself. Oh, you do? Have you tested it? Because until you've tested it, that's just, you're assuming that, buddy. That's an assumption. We don't know. We don't have no fucking idea. But again, what will the system and the people in the system always do? They will never stop making offers that I would do what? Falsely identify with the validity, right? Because if I agree that, yeah, you're right, it is valid to come to a realm called Earth and to make rich people richer with my own blood, sweat, and tears. See, the realm will never stop offering that. The people who claim to be Christians, who claim to follow Jesus, will never stop offering that. That is to pull yourself up by your bootstraps. It's like, well, everybody else is serving business. Well, yeah, but wait a minute. In the Bible, isn't there something about taking the mark to buy and sell? Isn't it going to come? If that's a real thing, won't there come to a point where basically everybody's done that? So how does that again, now we're back to principles. How does that justify, right? That's the literal, the parent telling the kid, well, if everybody else jumped off a cliff, would you do it too? Which the fact is, absolutely. Almost everybody would. Are you kidding me? Have you met the people? This is how people are. Yeah, absolutely. If everybody else jumps off a cliff, there's a very high probability that the next person's going to jump off the cliff too. But again, now we're back to principle. Well, if I am a man of principle and you put me in a realm where everyone else is effectively unprincipled, right? You can never come at me with the argument of, well, everybody else has a job. Everybody else is out here slaving to make rich people richer. Therefore, that's the reason for you to do it. I say, well, that's the same logic as if all my friends were jumping off a cliff, would I jump off the cliff with them? It's the same logic. So you can't have it both ways, people. It's one or it's the other. And again, principles aren't principles when they become circumstantial, right? We can't just say, oh, well, it's 2025 and this is just how things are, so therefore you must. Absolutely not. Again, what wouldn't Jesus do? Are you telling me that if Jesus was transported to 2025 and walking around, that Jesus would just go get a job? Because, oh, well, it's 2025 and that's just what people do. That's some of the most weak-minded, lily-livered bullshit I've ever heard in my entire life. It's so cowardly. I have difficulty even. It's like it doesn't even compute. Right. And then, sadly, I'm seeing the child sacrifice more and more. I'm viewing that as this is how adversarial, and this is how dog eat dog and every man and woman for himself and herself this realm is. I think half the reason a lot of these people have kids is to justify their own behaviors. Now they get to turn their brains off. Now they get to turn their spirit off. Now they get to extinguish that little light within them as much as possible so they can go out here and consume and produce for a delusory realm of business and profit and man dominating man unto his own injury. Right? But what's the end result of all that? Let's see. Oh, so as a human came here and that human drew breath and ate food and was raised by their parents and then had their own children and raised those children and went to their job, made rich people richer, and then one day died. What's the point? What's the point of that? Like, why bother? How is that enjoyable? Now, again, if the person is like, yeah, but we want to live in a certain neighborhood, we want to drive a certain car, we want our children to have certain experiences. Yeah, those are all preferences. That's great. So what? What does that have to do with your immanent soul, if that's a thing? What does that have to do with a Christian notion of judgment? Again, I'm not putting this forth as valid. I'm saying that I was born into a world in which this is a big damn deal with this idea of Christianity, a Christian nation under God, judgment, and all of these things. That's a big damn deal, right? And to some folks, it's still a big damn deal. To some people, that's still a big damn deal. And then I heard, shout out to Chalk Body Outline, Drew World Order on his backup channel. I heard him saying something about how there's another. We're going to get a little inside baseball with the truther, the so-called truth community. Bear with me. There's another content creator, Toilet Bowl Earth, or TBE, and he's known for spiraling out and crashing out. I've been known for my own spirals and crash out. But apparently TBE, and this is all, third hand, this is all gossip. But the story that I heard on Drew's stream on Get Chalked Up was that TBE, had said some version of basically wanting God to come destroy the wicked, like the Bible says. And then, yeah, I've said things like that in the past. Absolutely. Like years ago. Absolutely. And so I kept getting mentioned in this thing as if now he's talking like me. It's like, well, maybe he's talking like I was talking 5 years ago. I mean, have you heard me lately? I can guarantee you nothing he's saying right now sounds anything like I've been talking. I promise you that. But then Drew is basically like, yeah, I'm pretty sure the Bible doesn't say that. Drew, the Bible absolutely says that. Like, what are you talking about, sir? Like, and it doesn't matter to me if Drew understands the Bible or not, but bro, it's right there in the fucking book. There's graphic descriptions of is it Revelation chapter 13 or 19? I don't remember. I'd have to go look it up, but there's very graphic descriptions of the treading of the winepress and all of these things, sir. It's absolutely in there. Now, it turns out that much of the Bible is complete nonsense, garbage. Isn't that interesting? Much of the Bible is pure fucking nonsense garbage, but parts of it, right? If a person knows how to glean, there's a lot of wisdom. Well, I won't even say wisdom. There's a lot in there, right? If a person knows how to extract it, right? And a lot of it, surprise, surprise, a lot of the correct ideas in the Bible are inverted, such as when Christ talked about if hate can drive out hate, then Satan's kingdom is divided against itself, and how can it stand? See, that's an inversion. What's actually meant there is the kingdom of the most super intelligent force of love and creation possible at the highest levels of vibrational frequency. It can't be divided. It can only be one. It can't be divided at all, because if it can be divided, it's not what it claims to be in the first place. Again, we're back to what? Thesis and antithesis, proposition and devil's advocate. See, that's what it all comes down to. Yeah, I was a little annoyed by some of the by me being brought up in some of those discussions. It was like, yeah, man, maybe TBE of today is talking like I was talking 5 years ago in certain ways. What does that have to do with anything? Like I've never even heard this guy testify. I posted in the comments, Christ Jesus has delivered me from wicked spirits, unclean spirits, and demonic spirits, and also healing, because apparently TBE is talking about his organs being fucked up, and then that, reminded people of me and my illness and all of this. I'm doing great physically because Christ Jesus has healed me, and that is my testimony, right? And I don't know if anybody remembers, but way back in the day when I was like, yeah, I'm pretty much actively dying as far as I could tell, I always said, well, there's a possibility for divine intervention. I repeatedly said that. And that was the part that we'll just forget about that part. Right. We've completely forgotten about that part. Yeah, Christ healed me. Yeah, that's what Christ does. Right. It's not complicated, not complicated. And also, folks aren't really aware that the mentality of a person who is even able to access those levels of healing, right? Because, this ain't a biblical story where Jesus came down here in the flesh and, like in the Bible, I tugged at his garment or whatever. It's none of that, right? We're talking about Christ consciousness. Again, I am the way, I am the truth, I am the life. No one comes unto the Father except through me. See, Christians don't know what that means, right? Again, I've answered all questions for myself within myself, okay? On behalf of me. Now, the realm will immediately demand that I externalize all of that and I codify it and I present it to you folks. Absolutely not. Because my power is within me. That's where the questions are answered. If I answer the questions externally, that doesn't do any good, right? Now, if I come on here and discourse, and this does help me organize my thoughts, right, and all of that, then yeah, great. And if other people enjoy listening to it, but the fact is, the vast majority of the audience has no fucking idea what I'm talking about. I mean, really don't. This is the advanced course, and I don't say that to demean or insult the audience. It's just I've observed the commentary over time, and I've realized just, oh yeah, this most of this is simply not thinking it. Right? That's fine. You know, even if I walked around just saying this out loud to myself and whoever else might hear it, there's still a value, right? It really doesn't matter. Let me check my battery level. Yeah, my battery is just going straight to the toilet today for some reason. Some days, man, my phone battery does fine, and other days it's just, I mean, it's just a direct plunge downward for whatever reason. Today happens to be one of those days. And I've gotten so advanced mind, body, and spirit with these notions and concepts and ideas that that's what the Bible means when it says no weapon formed against me shall prosper. It can't. Because why? Because the weapon formation of the weapon is always based on me accepting an offer of the moment. By what? Internalizing spiritual attacks around what? Viewing myself in relation to a delusory realm of business and transactions and production. Can we face the reality that pretty much nobody gives a flying fuck about being productive? I mean, can we just, I mean, as in a business sense, is that okay to say that out loud? I mean, I understand that we all kind of have been socialized and we sort of have to pretend, but if we're honest with ourselves, can't we acknowledge that generally speaking, individuals don't give a flying fuck about getting out of bed and going producing for a business every day? People do that because they falsely believe that they don't have an alternative. See, why would anybody get out of bed in the morning and go to their job if they didn't have to? Now, some are sick enough that they just want to, and hey, some people would do it for free. That's fine. That's not. I'm not talking about them. That's, you know, that's an affliction all its own, right? You know, I see homeless people that sweep the sidewalk for free, right? Like, you see all kind of stuff. You know, there's all sorts of people do all sorts of things. It's not what we're talking about, right? So that's the attack is here, sir. In this new moment, I'm going to offer you the opportunity to view yourself as lesser than the rest of us because you, sir, are not affirming the validity of waking up every day, punching a clock, and making rich people richer. And I'm saying, fuck them. I'm saying, fuck them. They're already so rich that 10 generations from now, their descendants won't have to do anything they don't want to do, right? That's 10 generations from now, right? And nobody's lazier than rich people. You want to talk about pull yourself up by your bootstraps, be productive, you know, just, people are lazy because they're poor because they're lazy. Nobody, I repeat, nobody is lazier than actual rich people, right? If you could just gather up like 50 actual rich people that were born into fantastic wealth that you could never possibly imagine, and then you put them through a series of trials and tribulations, you will see these are the laziest motherfuckers possible. You can't be lazier than that because nobody else has the luxury of practicing that level of laziness except for the fabulously wealthy, right? Because a homeless person can go to sleep on a sidewalk and a cop might come by and move them along, right? Or it might start raining. All sorts of things could happen. But a person born into fabulous wealth doesn't have to lift a finger, and nobody's going to come along to make them, right? As long as they fulfill whatever it is that their family demands of them, their loving families, right? Their families loved them so much that they got fantastically wealthy generations ago, right? I wonder how they did that. Did they do that by serving evil to the maximum amount possible? I'm pretty sure it didn't happen through love. I'm pretty sure it didn't happen through the highest form of love and creative force possible at the highest levels of vibrational frequency, a quickening spirit. Again, what wouldn't Jesus do? Jesus would never become a billionaire. Jesus would never, now, I don't know if he would have been born into a wealthy family, but, what if Jesus was born into a fabulously wealthy family? What would Jesus be like? But remember, the circumstances don't change the principles. Because if the circumstances change the principles, then those aren't principles. See, that's not a code. But all of society is based on this idea that we have value as individuals because we go out and serve economies, we go out and serve businesses, and we are productive for a nation's economy. And I'm here to say that's a bunch of foolish nonsense. Question everything. Except that, you can't question that. Don't question that, but question everything. Okay, question everything except the entire basis for day-to-day life in the realm, business and transactions. Don't question business and transactions. And I got into a conversation in a Starbucks in Silicon Valley, San Mateo County, I think. And I love it, man. I guess Dave Ramsey did a video about Social Security Administration. And I've been listening to a channel breaking down a lot of what's been going on with the Social Security Administration. So I guess, because Dave Ramsey talked about it, now it's okay to talk about it. So this guy, of course he's rich. I mean, he's from the Bay, Now he's not necessarily, so rich that he didn't have to work a job, but he's, at least is able to retire in an affluent area, right? So I wouldn't even necessarily call him rich, but most likely he'll live the rest of his life in relative comfort, right? But the things presumably could still happen to force him into poverty. So, because an actual rich person can never be forced into poverty, right? No matter what they do, it's just simply impossible. Like Alice Walton, there's nothing she can do to become a poor person. It's physically fucking impossible, right? That's one of the Waltons of Walmart fame. I mean, think about this. She could just go out into the streets every day with $500,000 in cash and just give it to people. She could do that every day for the rest of her life and never become a poor person. Like literally. Think about that. We can't even conceptualize wealth, true wealth. The people we think of as rich still have to work a job or have to work in their business. Nobody who has to work a job or has to physically work in their business is rich. And part of the reason I know that is because that was my father. But it seemed like not rich, relatively affluent, right? Relative to everybody else. See? Not actual wealth, though. Not actual rich people. Anyway, I gotta go find somewhere to post up because I'm gonna have to plug in my battery to charge. Then we might start running into a situation where the phone might get too hot. So I don't know. It's not a yurt to stream just yet, but the one moment, please. And one of these final hurdles I seem to be moving past mentally is just an absolute refusal to identify with any notions of, okay, chief, now you're the leader. Now you go out here and lead the way. It's like, no, I already did that. What do you mean? I already did that within myself, for myself, on behalf of myself. Been there, done that. That's over, buddy. Uh, and all of that was done as what? Cope. In what? The hope that one day I would ascend to the level I've ascended to, where within a delusion, you want to talk about a self realized spiritual master, right? You want to talk about a self realized spiritual master. I've done practiced on a daily basis so long that I have transcended the motherfucking limitations of fear, guilt, shame, anxiety, and stress. That can't touch me anymore. Think about that. Now, yeah, am I still, imperfect in a few moments that I feel a little tinge of stress? Sure, sure. But it's 95% less than what it used to be. I have less than 5% of the fear, the guilt, the shame, the anxiety, and the stress that I used to have. And I'm talking like 2 months ago, right? That's what I did. And now, if you folks are what I am, I suspect you could also do that. Most of you too chicken shit. Most of you too chicken shit. Because most of you would say, well, but what if I put all that work in and I never get there? I don't know. I did 15 years of it. And for all I knew, I was going to die trying. So yeah, that shit does not compute to me, right? Because if a thing's worth doing, it's worth doing of its own merit. See, this is where Benton has been working with the logic for so long. See, I set that up in my mind many years ago. If something's worth doing, it's worth doing of its own merits, meaning the reward is contained within the thing itself, right? And the benefits accrue to me no matter what. So the recent benefit that accrued to me is, generally speaking, I no longer experience anxiety, stress, fear, guilt, or shame. Now, like I said, occasionally, and I do still get spiritually attacked first thing in the morning to some extent when I first wake up, but my processes and my practices have become so strong that that's fairly easily dealt with. And just the states of relaxation I'm able to get to as a result of that, right? Most of you have no fucking clue how stressed out you might be. Again, I don't know. I'm not you. I can't say for sure. But I'm pretty sure I wasn't the only person in society, at a certain level of stress and anxiety, which to me wasn't even that high compared to other folks. It's like, yeah, I was still able to get through my day. Unlike a lot of folks, I was able to get through my day without antidepressants, anti-anxiety, all kind of psych meds, right? Man, and managing my own mental health, which guess what? There's a limit to that. There's a limit to that. Now, what's the point of the psych meds? What's the point of the antidepressants? It's to be able to do what? To get through the day. What are they doing to get through the day? They're making rich people richer. What's the point of that? The rich people are already rich. Is that the price of making them richer? It's a fucking sickness, man. It's a sickness. Hmm. Humanity is psychologically sick based on what I watch them do. That's psychological illness. That behavior is a symptom of psychological illness. And that has to be reconciled. We can't just say, oh, well, must be the chemical makeup. Oh, well, we'll just get them on the right cocktail of meds. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm saying, how about, again, question everything except the validity of doing all of the things that a person does on a daily basis that they can't get through their day without anti-anxiety medications and antidepressants. Right. Oh, well, don't question what might be causing, right? Don't question what might be causing the being to not be able to get through their day without those chemicals. Meanwhile, I'm just plainly stating on a live stream and out here in public in Los Angeles, by the way, I'm just out here publicly stating that, yes, about 2 months ago now, I still don't even know how to refer to this, but I don't know that it's an achievement necessarily, but or an attainment. I don't know, but true knowledge of self. So when properly identified within myself, with my nature, which is one with the most super intelligent force of love and creation possible at the highest levels of vibrational frequency, a quickening spirit, I cannot experience fear. I cannot experience hate. I cannot experience anger. I cannot experience any negative form of being. I don't know anything about it. Right? So now here's part of the genius of Benton. I'm so stupid, I'm smart in a way. The moment I begin to feel anger or fear or stress or anxiety, I know that there's only ever one cause. It's because for whatever reason, I've temporarily fallen away from proper identification, and I'm now identifying personally with something other than my own nature. And that's the only way it's possible for me to maybe, and again, only within a delusion. I'm only speaking in the context of delusion. If not for the delusion, what I am, it can't even entertain these notions, right? That one, when we talk about that kingdom that cannot be divided against itself, that most super intelligent force of love and creation possible at the highest levels of vibrational frequency, that force cannot conceptualize any negative states. It doesn't know what you mean by fear. It doesn't know what you mean by stress. It's Jack from Jack and the Beanstalk, right? It doesn't know what the fuck you're talking about. And you explain it till you're blue in the face, it doesn't believe you, right? So in any moment that I realize, oh, wait a minute, I'm actually thinking, what am I going to do for money in the future? I'm actually, my body's having a certain physical response to that. As soon as I go back to proper identification, it goes away. Because why? Because it ain't real in the first place. Because it's not real in the first place. It lacks substance, right? Now, as a creative being, via the never-ending series of offers, where the realm in each new moment always offers me the opportunity to improperly identify. See, there's no end to the opportunities to, hey, sir, would you like to opt into our offer whereby you will experience fear, guilt, and shame? And see, when I say no to that, right? When I refuse the offer, the offer, whoever's offering doesn't go away. They say, oh, okay. And then the next thing you know, hey man, would you like to opt into our offer here? Right? Would you like to check this box and identify with this realm of business? Would you like to see yourself in relation to what you do for a living, your bank balance, right? Um, and all of these things, and the strength, the military might of a nation. And would you like to do all of these things? See, that offer never stops coming, right? So the moment I begin to experience any of those negative states, the meditation, the expert levels of meditation says, well, wait a minute, what is this? Where did this come from? That's fear, that's guilt, that's shame, that's anxiety, that's stress. That's not you. That's all dead. See? Oh, that's right. I must have been temporarily entertaining one of these offers, right? That never stops. I must have just temporarily I bought into the potential validity of one of these offers of a realm via a realm of delusion. By the way, it's a realm of delusion is making the offers. Yeah, and so all I have to do in that moment is say, okay, well, I've fallen away from proper identification. What I am is not capable of being worried or concerned about any of this because it doesn't. It's none of it's you know. And simultaneously, videos are hitting my feed, my YouTube feed, talking about everything's fake, right? I guess everything's fake except for the stress, the fear, and the anxiety, and the guilt and the shame. Is that real? If everything's fake, then what is the fear, the guilt, the shame, the stress, and the anxiety? What is all of that? See, well, as we know, that's what controls us, and I don't mean us as a group. I mean that's what controls individuals, right? And I'm here to tell you, in the last 2 months, generally, effectively, I don't experience that anymore. I don't experience fear anymore. I don't experience guilt anymore. I don't experience shame. I don't experience anxiety. I don't experience stress. Because when I do, it's for a moment or two or three, and I realize, wait a minute, something's gone wrong here, and I right the ship, right? I go back to hitting the target I was aiming at, and it goes away because it never was real in the first place. Fear is dead, guilt is dead, shame is dead, anxiety is dead, and stress is dead. They never had life. They can't ever have life. They can seem very real. Yeah, lots of things that aren't real can seem real. Lots of things that aren't real can seem real. What does that matter? Who cares? Now here will come the latest offer. Okay, well, everybody needs money, and how are you going to feed yourself? Here. None of my concern. I mean, really, realistically speaking, how is that any of my concern? And by the way, Christians, that's in the book. The book says not to worry about that. The book specifically says don't even worry about it, Padma. Now, again, I never agreed to follow the book, nor would I, and I'm on record that much of the Bible is complete garbage nonsense. Yeah, but what I'm saying is the people who claim to follow that religion, it's right there. Don't worry about what clothes you're going to wear and what you're going to eat and all of these things. And that's really the only offer that can be made to me anymore is, oh, well, how are you going to do this? How are you going to do that? Well, I don't know. But number two, I know the timeline I'm going to do that on, and I know the limitations of that timeline. So I know no matter what I choose to do between now and the end of this experience, no matter what I choose to do, the experience will still end. No matter what, at some point, the body will no longer need food, right? At some point, the body will no longer need clothes. At some point, the breath will not be drawn and the heart will not beat, no matter what, right? So why would I accept the offer of a realm of delusion to say, well, don't you want to define yourself, little Benton, in relation to something that almost everybody now just makes videos about not being real, right? Which is, again, it's not the proper terminology, calling it fake, right? I think what people mean is a lack of substance, right? But because of what I know myself to be, I can never be dependent on uh, anything outside of myself as a source of substance, right? See that again, this is an inversion. It's an offer was made, right, to your parents and to their parents and to their parents. It's been a series of offers, and myself included, up until about 2 months ago, we accept the offer in each new moment. And the offer is, hey, perhaps you are one with the most super intelligent force of love and creation possible at the highest levels of vibrational frequency. However, would you like to accept our offer to check this box and to opt into fear, guilt, shame, stress, and anxiety so that you can go out here and serve a system of business and industry and corporatism so that rich people can be made richer every new moment into perpetuity? And that is the function of the economy, and it never fails to achieve its purpose. I was born in 1975, and from 1975 until 2025, right now, every single moment of my life, rich people have been made richer via economy, because that is the function of the economy, and it never fails to achieve its purpose no matter what. Now, the fact that it also serves ancillary functions is not what I'm talking about. That doesn't disprove what I just said. No, it also does other things, right? But the other things it also does is not its function or its purpose. Those are things that it also does, right? Based on its design. See? So when people say everything's fake, right? Well, okay, lacking substance or content, or not physically, not comprised of physical matter, right? If I know all of that, why would I ever be convinced to go out here and to serve what that system of delusion sets forth as honorable and righteous, which is business and business transactions and money and economy, right? That's fine. That's okay that that's happening. My only choice is, do I choose to define myself on that basis, yes or no? And most people are too cowardly to ever do anything other than to define themselves based on this realm of business, profit, money, banking, and the rich people being made richer through the toil and the strife and the struggle of the common folks every moment into perpetuity. Forever, right? Now, if the offer was made like that, I don't know who would accept it. Who would say, "Yeah, that sounds like a good thing to do. Yeah, let me go out here and and spend my time and my effort and my energy." And see, it's a negative motivation, just like politics. It's always a negative motivation. The motivation is not, that what I am going to create and what I'm going to put forth and to show as a model to other people. Like, it's not that that's worthy, it's that this other thing is unworthy, right? So the motivation is to avoid having to view oneself from an undesirable position of refusing to serve an economic system of business and employment, or to serve it to a lesser degree, or to serve it in ways that are not considered honorable or laudable, right? Because remember, Nobody is lazier than people born into actual wealth because nobody else has the luxury of exercising laziness to that extent. But this realm of inversion teaches, well, actually, it's the poor people are the laziest because they have the least. So if they would work harder, they would have more. It's the rich people who are the hardest workers because they have the most. No, that's backwards. Nobody is lazier than people born into wealth. And I mean actual wealth, not people we think are wealthy. There's nobody lazier than somebody born into actual wealth. And what I mean by actual wealth is there's nothing that actually wealthy people can ever do to become unwealthy. A wealthy person can never, ever fall to the level of a poor person. It's simply not possible. It can't ever happen, right? And those are the laziest people in society. Those are the people who do the least, are the richest people. But then the conventional wisdom is that the laziest people are the poorest people. That's the conventional wisdom. Because if only if they would work a little harder, then they would have a little more. See, so that's what you want me to opt into is uh to keep up with the Joneses, to be accepted by a bunch of people that I don't even see anything. I don't. By the way, I don't see a reason to respect your average person. When I look at the actions and behaviors of your average person, I see almost nothing worthy of respect. So what society is offering to me is, hey, go out here and behave based on these notions that people are poor because they're lazy and people are rich because they worked hard. Meanwhile, nobody is lazier than people born into fabulous riches and wealth. Those are the those are the laziest people. Thank you. Yeah. But the conventional wisdom is that the laziest people are the poorest people because they're so lazy they don't have anything, right? So society wants me to sign up, right, to question everything, but don't ever question the notion of, are people deserving of their wealth, or what did people have to do to have the money that they're spending, right? And those same people, right, because they love their families, and they're signed on to a system of business and making rich people richer every moment into perpetuity, right? And because they love their family, right? That's what they're going to do come hell or high water. And any time someone like me holds up a mirror to their lives and says, well, hey, man, what about the validity of how I'm living over here? See, now I have to be attacked. Now I have to be gaslit. Now I have to be given offers to internalize notions of, well, a little bit, and there's just something wrong with you, right? Well, I don't know, man. The government tested me in the 99th percentile. I'm pretty sure if it just came down to putting my butt in a seat somewhere in the system saying, here's what he's good at, here's what the system needs from him, here's how much we're willing to pay him, I'm almost certain that if that's what this place was about, that I'd be doing just fine based on those metrics. See? Pretty sure. Solely based on the fact that I've been tested in the 99th percentile by the government itself. Yeah. Oh, yeah. The Armed Services Vocational Assessment Battery. I scored the 99th percentile. So, but what will always happen is the system will always make offers. Okay, well, don't you want to internalize that you must be lacking something? Sir, what I am can't experience a lack. What I am can only ever know abundance. So, no, I will not accept the offer. And the offer is what? To identify with the realm of delusion as if it's real. No, I won't. Because what I am can never know a lack of what? A lack of an ability to do what? Serve a corporation. Oh, you're telling me that I'm bad and I'm wicked and I'm shameful and I'm guilty because I don't have the capacity to properly serve a corporation to make people who were born rich even richer? Is that what you're suggesting to me? That it has to be something wrong with me? That I must lack something? I'm here to tell you what I am can't experience a lack. That ain't possible. So tell me again how it's got to be my fault? Oh, because the house of cards, the folly, the error could never be on behalf of the realm itself. The world can't ever exist in error. That's not possible. I can't have been born in 1975 into an economic system and a business system and an employment system and an education system that's false and illegitimate and invalid on its face. That's not possible. That's the supposition we're all operating from. Oh, we'll question everything except that, except the possibility that this system of business and employment may not, strictly speaking, be valid. Because every argument I see, every notion I see propagated by the so-called truthers, it's all based on, well, this system of employment has to have validity. This system of business has to have validity. Says who? Because people are dumb enough to get out of bed every morning and go punch a clock for a corporation. That makes it valid because people are that fucking stupid. That lends credence to it. So what stupid people foolishly choose to do with a high degree of frequency. Now we're back to the logic of, well, if all your friends jumped off a cliff, would you do it too? Yeah, I'm pretty sure most people would. If most people's peer groups, if most people saw their peer group walk off the edge of a cliff, I'm pretty sure that's what most people would do. Yeah, absolutely. But does that make it valid? Does that make it correct? So the fact that almost everybody in this delusory realm of business chooses to get up every day of their own apparent volition and go make rich people richer every moment into perpetuity, which is the function of the economy, that somehow validates it? Bullshit. It's either valid or invalid of its own merits in a vacuum. The fact that so many morons have been convinced to continue to behave in a moronic fashion and to continue to engage in behaviors that they themselves know can never possibly lead to a proper functional society. And yes, I am using air quotes. What people are choosing to do on a daily basis cannot possibly ever lead to anything approaching what any of us would ever agree. Yes, this is proper. This is good. This is right. This is what we would have designed it to be. Because society is always what? The product of business. Moment to moment, what I have experienced every moment since I left my mama's womb in 1975 has been a result of business, processes of business, application of the principles of business. So society is already operating on a backwards principle. It's already coming from, we're going to start with whatever business produces, and then we're going to backwards rationalize from that. And then we'll try to sort of take the stink off of it. And maybe we'll try to seem like we're addressing the problem. Can't solve the problems because everybody choosing to participate in business on a daily basis is what causes the problems. Stop participating in business on a daily basis, and most of the problems would vanish overnight. Yes, they would. Most of the problems would vanish overnight. Now, it would not transform into utopia. I'm not saying that there wouldn't be other problems. I'm saying that most of what society considers to be its most pressing problems are a direct result of almost everybody getting out of bed every morning and going off and serving a system of business and corporatism and government and economy and banking and finance. That's what creates the problem. So no, I will not define myself in relation to that system. No, I will not. Because what I am would never have created that system in the first place. Only via a realm of delusion is any of that even possible in the first place. Without the delusion itself coming into existence through what? Through the subversion of the creative force of the individuals who are presently here, right? Only via the subversion of that creative force is this realm of delusion that I find myself in even possible in the first place. Yes, delusory. The realm itself is a delusion. If somebody can't reason their way through all of that, not my problem. I've just walked around and thought about it every day for about 15 motherfucking years, and this is what I've come up with. I've answered the questions for me within me, on behalf of me. Everybody else is on, you're on your own. Guess what? Just like this system of business where it's dog eat dog, where it's every man for himself, where people pretend like it's good vibes. This is a realm of adversarial business. That's what this is. I came out of my mama in 1975, left the womb, and was birthed and was, by the way, sacrificed by my parents to a pagan deity known as Moloch. Oh, yeah, here, have at him. Have at him. We're going to put him through the public school system. We're going to put him into this corporate structure so he can go out here and serve businesses and serve economy so that rich people can be made richer every moment into perpetuity. That's the function of the economy. It never fails to achieve its purpose, ever. Now, it does other things, and ancillary functions. It does other ancillary functions. Yeah. But that's not its purpose or its design. The design of the economy is to make rich people richer every new moment into perpetuity. Thankfully, it only happens within a delusion. That's only possible within a realm of delusion. Now, why are all these videos hitting everybody's feeds now about, oh, everything's fake, everything's not real, blah, blah, blah? People don't even know what that means. What that means is a delusion can never, strictly speaking, have substance. That's not possible. A delusion cannot have substance. So when the video hits your feed, oh, everything's fake. It's an acknowledgement of something that everybody with a subconscious mind, Carl Jung, man and his symbols, right? Everybody's subconscious mind, as far as I can tell, perfectly decodes all symbols. Everybody deep down knows that they live in a world of delusion. Now, yeah, I understand that may not be in the conscious mind, but the subconscious knows it. The subconscious knows it because the subconscious symbolically decodes all of this, whether or not that ever makes it to the conscious mind. So that is the nature of this realm. It's what? It's a delusion based on what? Antithesis. Well, what's the thesis? The thesis is that there can't be nothing, and if there has to be something, what would that be? Oh, I don't know. The source of everything, the most super intelligent force of love and creation possible at the highest levels of vibrational frequency, a quickening spirit? That would be thesis or proposition. So antithesis would say, well, actually, maybe it's this other thing. And that is how this realm of delusion was created. Because wouldn't the most super intelligent force of love and creation possible at the highest levels of vibrational frequency, wouldn't it, by the way, like Jack from Jack and the Beanstalk, unable to conceptualize any calamities that might befall, can't fear, has no concept of fear, has no concept of calamity, has no concept of error, right? Can't even conceptualize of such, right? And, you know, I'm not the first to say it. Wouldn't that force maybe be curious and wonder, well, yeah, I wonder, you know, what would happen if I became aware that I'm the thesis, and that in order for me to be thesis, there must be antithesis. You can't really have one without the other. That gets us back to the problem of, can there, strictly speaking, be nothing, right? So if there's something, meaning thesis, most super intelligent force of love possible, the highest levels of vibrational frequency, there has to be the antithesis of that: death, destruction, depravity, right? But if what I am can never experience any of that, it can certainly create for itself what? Delusion. It can create a delusion and inhabit the delusion. And now it can have an experience, right? Now it can have an experience where negative states are possible, but only within a delusion. Now we get into fear, anxiety, guilt, shame, stress. I'm here to tell you, I experienced all of those up until about 2 months ago. And after about 15 years of daily practice, finally had true knowledge of self. Yep. Now I know exactly what I am. And the moment I know exactly what I am, I know exactly what I am not. Right? And what I am can never know fear. What I am can never know guilt. What I am can never know shame. It can never know anxiety. It can never know stress. And in the last 2 months, I've experienced almost none of that. And when I do experience it, I know, oh, that's right. Momentarily, I've forgotten myself and I failed to properly identify within myself with what I know myself to be. And the moment I go back to proper identification, the stress goes away, the fear goes away, the guilt goes away, the shame goes away. You know why? Because it was never real in the first place. It was never real in the first place. Only by my own creative force, only by my own willpower, only by my own tacit consent was it birthed into being by my own foolishness. By what? Because I temporarily was willing to listen to antithesis. Antithesis saying, well, actually, what about this other thing? What about this devil's advocate? See? What about this? What about that? I don't know, man. What about it? Does it lead to fear? Does it lead to guilt? Does it lead to shame? Does it lead to stress? Does it lead to anxiety? I'm probably not interested in. I'm probably not interested. Oh, but wait a minute. You mean I've agreed to sign on to viewing myself and who I am as a human being based on a system of business and industry and money and wealth? Well, if I'm that foolish, well, of course I would just expect that when I go to work every morning, I'm going to be fearful, I'm going to be stressed out, I'm going to be anxious, and if I was like most of the rest of the population, I'd probably be taking psych meds just to get through the day, right? See, we've started from a false premise, and when I say we, I don't include myself in that. What I observe of humanity is beginning from a false premise that within a delusion that the fucking stock price of Tesla or the military might of the United States of America matters at all. It doesn't. Before I came out of my mother's womb in 1975, I had no concept of, Tesla didn't exist, but I had no concept of General Electric and its stock price. I had no concept of the military might of the United States of America, and yet supposedly all of that existed. Yeah, it did. As a delusion, it existed. Right. So the primary plight that I observe in humanity is that for whatever reason, they've signed themselves on to identifying with the usefulness, the practicality, and the value of a stock market, of a nation, of military might, of geopolitics, right? And all of these things. That's all dead. None of that can ever contain life, right? None of that can ever escape this place of delusion. The United States of America can never exist beyond this place. The US dollar can never exist beyond this place, right? Even within this realm, people like to say, well, you can't take it with you. Then what good is it? If I can't take it with me, what good is it? What value does it have? It has no value, right? Did you know I've met homeless people recently and I tried to give them $5 and they wouldn't take my $5? Yeah. And I respected that because it's worthless. Now, yeah, sure, I can take the $5 and go get a coffee or whatever. Sure. Business. But in the end, it's fake, meaning lacking substance, meaning hollow, right? And this is where people don't really understand the meaning of words, right? And I keep hearing vapid. Most of the time when you hear vapid, vacuous is the proper term, right? So when you keep seeing these videos hit the feed talking about, oh, everything's fake. No, what they mean is this world that I seemingly exist within is vacuous, meaning it lacks substance. Of course it does. It's a delusion. A delusion can never have substance. That's not possible. That's not possible. That can never happen. Now, of course, I have no problem with any of this. Now, and this is why society will always attempt to get me to internalize and will always try to gaslight because my logic is unassailable, right? That's the problem is I've dealt with these matters for so many years on a daily basis. I've so carefully constructed my logic that by the time I would ever dare to publicly present any of this, I've already ensured that it's unassailable logically. So the problem for humanity is that they are not going to be able to logically remain in the proper space and simultaneously dismiss my claims. It's one or the other, right? And that's where the appeals to emotion via ridicule come in. And that's where we've seen it even from content creators that I attempted to try to respect for a time. And that was only apparently within a thought experiment because that just wasn't possible because what I've observed is almost everybody, when their logic fails them, will resort to appeals to emotion via ridicule and the fickle feelings, the manipulation of the fickle feelings of the peanut gallery, which I refuse to do because I'm better than that. Why am I better than that? Because I spent day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year, carefully constructing logical forms that cannot be deconstructed. That's why. And so now I get to go everywhere and annoy everybody. Because I get to force them to come up with their own logic. I will not let them piggyback off of my logic. It's like, well, okay, I've just made my case now. And so you know what they do when I make my case? Using brutal, unassailable, impregnable logic. You know the first thing they do after I stop talking, after I've made my brilliant logical case that's unassailable and carefully constructed, it took me years to get there. They say, so what you're saying is, I say, nope. I said, I just said it. I said, I'm not going to stand here and let you restate what I just stated, sir. You get to make your own thing. You don't get to restate what I just stated. Sorry. Nope. I'm happy to shut the fuck up and listen while you, sir or madam, state your logical case. You don't get to restate mine and to then introduce just enough sliver of weakness. Nope. Absolutely not. Because I'm the baddest motherfucker out here when it comes to logic, and I'll put my name on that. Yes, I will. Ridiculous Southern accent and all. I will put my name on that. And I'll get in a room with the smartest of the smart. You have whatever brilliant logician you want. I'll put my logic up against any of them. Because that's all I've been doing. Well, it's not all I've been doing. It's a big part of what I've been doing every motherfucking day for about the last 15 years. Brutal logic, brutal logic, brutal logic, brutal logic, brutal logic, brutal logic, all day, every day. Brutal logic, all day, every day. 15 years of brutal logic all day, every day. I'll put my logic up against anybody's logic in this motherfucker. Yep, I'm ready for that. And watch them all crumble. Watch them all crumble. Because they're not what they purport themselves to be. Why? Because they're businesses. Because they're all businesses in a system of business. Name me one of these famous logicians and I will show you a business. Start naming them. Whoever you got. Andrew Wilson sounds like a business to me. Who else you got? Jordan Peterson sounds like a business to me. Right? I don't know. Whatever famous thinker there is, sounds like a business to me. Well, if they have to continue to earn a living from their thoughts and ideas and their logic and their reason, I'll defeat them just based on that. I'll defeat them solely based on the fact that I am not in that position of having to learn, of choosing. I would not choose to put myself in a position to where, in order to earn my living, my thoughts and ideas must be turned into a business. And that's why I can get in a room with any of these people and I can defeat them with my logic because they are only going to be able to operate their logic within the context of business. And it's just like in a thought experiment who tipped his hand in his community post. Right? He's only able to frame his argument in a specific context based on suppositions that go unquestioned because of business. Because we're all out here earning a living, right? Well, if I'm willing to question the very validity of earning a living, thus refusing to take on a specific form that everybody else has seemingly agreed to take on, then I now have a strategic advantage. And as long as I don't accept the offers on behalf of the system, I cannot be defeated. And surprise, surprise, what I am can never know defeat. What I am is victory. What I am is the victory. Think about that. You see how it all ties together? What can there be to fear? What can there be to fear? And yeah, I'm delivering this discourse publicly. And yeah, people do stop and listen from time to time. And I've actually, people may or may not know this about me. I've done a great deal of public speaking in my time. I mean, a lot. And what I've noticed about humans is some of them will hang around and listen, but see, they need it to be tailored to them. They need a message. Well, more correctly, their psychology operates on a marketing and a business framework. Meaning, yeah, they are picking up some of what I'm putting down, but at some point, they're going to need it it's going to need to be presented to them in a way where they can engage with it at the level of commerce, right? But why? to be able to present themselves to this delusory realm of business in a particular way. And that's what religion is. That's what religion is. Okay. It's to be able to, it's an excuse to present oneself to the realm and the people in the realm in a specific type of way. Right. And that's what's going wrong with, a certain content creator who's apparently going through a crisis, toilet bowl earth, or TBE. Right. So I do find it interesting that Chalk Body Outline on his backup channel, Get Chalked Up, he referred to me at least 3 different times. Right. And then TBE, at least LARPs as a Christian. And Drew, talks about going to church and talks about Jesus and Christ and all of these things. At no point was it ever mentioned, well, Benton testifies to having been delivered from wicked spirits, unclean spirits, and demonic spirits in the name of Christ Jesus. And also that Jesus Christ has healed my physical body. I mean, as much as I have a physical body in the first place. Right? That's my testimony, right? So how come the religion is referenced? How come Jesus is referenced? How come this other person is referenced? I'm compared to the other person. How come at no point was it mentioned, well, Benton testifies? I've never heard Toilet Bowl Earth testify, right? I've never heard it. Now, again, not my problem. But how can one claim to follow Christ and not deliver a testimony? Like, that's, again, call me crazy for actually understanding what the religion purports to be, but that's part of the religion, is that the follower of Christ will testify when it's appropriate to do so. That's my testimony, right? Now I can have my own thoughts and opinions about what do I even mean by Christ and Jesus and, historical persons in the Bible. That's all side issues, right? And I'll go back to, I am the way, I am the truth, I am the life. No one comes unto the Father except through me. What that means is what I am, right? The most super intelligent force of love and creation possible at the highest levels of vibrational frequency, a quickening spirit. I only access that within myself via Christ consciousness. That's what Jesus is referring to in the Bible. He's saying, if you think you're going to figure out exactly what you are, you're not going to do that without coming to experience Christ consciousness first. Okay. And that's also part of my testimony. I had a direct experience of Christ consciousness many years ago. Ask and ye shall receive, by the way. I asked for it and it happened. Okay. Now, people can have their own thoughts and opinions. It doesn't matter. What I'm concerned about is effectiveness in the real world. Or more correctly, what I'm interested in is effectiveness in the only part of this world that I know to be real, which is my own energy sphere, my own sphere of influence. That's the only thing I can ever actually be sure is real. We want to think about it. Right. Now, the realm will try to gaslight. The realm will try to say, well, can you even be sure of that? Oh, I'm 100% certain of that. I know exactly what I am. Absolutely. 100%. Yeah, absolutely. And it also comes down to commitment. It wasn't that long ago on this channel that I got into a little bit of a kerfuffle with another content creator in a thought experiment. And I finally realized that I needed to double down, right? Because first I did try to internalize and try to see, well, is this any of this my fault, right? hang on. I do need to go use the bathroom real quick. But then I realized, now wait a minute. This kerfuffle happened because of my own commitment to a specific trajectory in my growth, mind, body, and spirit, right? And so actually, it was a doubling down where I said, listen, I can't be turned away from this course. I can't be dissuaded. There's nothing that can ever happen that would turn me away from my chosen path. I'm all in. I'm fully committed to it. And you know what's interesting is it wasn't that many more months later till I had this, this experience of true knowledge of self. And I'm also almost certain that finally, cleaning up my diet entirely probably helped also. Many things contribute, and it's always mind, body, and spirit. And whichever is the weak point, that will always limit the progress. Shit. I think these bathrooms are closed. Hang on, let's see if we can sneak in. All right. Redeemable about it. All right, hang on. But then if I ask myself, how exactly is it that one manages to find oneself birthed into a realm or a world that is entirely irredeemable, right? How is that possible? Well, that sounds like the work of antithesis to me. If what I am, which is one with the most super intelligent force of love and creation possible at the highest levels of vibrational frequency, a quickening spirit, right? If that's the only redeemable phenomenon, right? Well, doesn't it sound like the work of antithesis to say, oh, okay, well, how about we break off a little chunk of an indivisible force? That's already a delusion. See, that only within delusion is that even possible, right? This is where I lost some of the audience. A small group was gathering earlier. This is where I lost them. I skipped past this part. I haven't completely codified all of these ideas yet, but the idea that it's possible to break off a chunk of an indivisible force, delusion, right? That's how I'm here, right? This idea that there's a Benton talking on a live stream, walking around Los Angeles, California in 2025. That's a delusion, right? That's a delusion. So what is redeemable in this place is what I am. And I mean the capital I, the capital A, the capital M, what I am. Nothing else in this place is redeemable, meaning nothing other than the most super intelligent force of love and creation possible at the highest levels of vibrational frequency, a quickening spirit. Nothing else can leave this delusion. Nothing else can escape this place, right? So what antithesis would say is, well, this force purports to be the only redeemable, right? Or more correctly, the source of everything redeemable. Okay, well, how about we have that in a delusory fashion go into a realm where nothing is redeemable? And then how about we treat that person like they're a piece of trash, like they're a sinner, like they're lowly, like they're wretched, unless they serve this system of business, this system of money, this system of evil, and this system of wickedness. And then if they serve those systems, those irredeemable systems, well enough, we'll pat them on the head and pretend like we like them, and we'll pretend like we want to have them around, because they've at least upheld, what the other people would would want to see upheld around, making corporations rich, making businesses richer, making rich people richer, all of these things. But so we can see the inversion. That it's exactly backwards. It's it's to walk around every day with the idea that this realm, that this world, there's anything redeemable about it whatsoever. There's not. There's nothing redeemable about business. There's nothing redeemable about the banking system. There's nothing redeemable about the government, right? There's nothing redeemable about Walmart or Target or Amazon or Starbucks. It's all dead. It's all buried. It never had life. I never knew them. I never knew any of that. It was only ever existed irredeemably within a delusion. Irredeemably. Meanwhile, I'm the genuine article. I'm the only thing here that has a redemptive value from my perspective. Again, solipsistically, you know, uh, if that's the case for somebody listening to this, and if they say, "Well, yeah, me too," okay, that's great, but that still doesn't make a team. That doesn't put us on a team together, right? There's no such thing as strength in numbers. That's for sure. But see, that's the offer. The offer is, hello, sir, would you like to check this box and opt into the idea that you've been born into a realm, a redeemable realm, and you've been born into that as a lowly, wretched sinner. And maybe if you act right, you will have a chance of redemption. Right. That's what I'm expected to believe. Okay. And this is where we get back to the unassailable logic. See? This is where the unassailable logic comes into play. Because in order for anybody to destroy this logic, they would have to defend the validity of the wicked world and the wicked system of things itself. See, it's only, my logic would only be invalid. My logic would only be able to fail if the opposition could make a case that, well, actually things aren't that bad, and actually the world's really not that wicked, and it's oh yeah, there's some problems here and there, but overall I think it's going pretty good. Are you what? What? Huh? No, nope, sorry, not getting on board with that one. Yeah, the realm's a delusion. It's like, do I have to, how delusional do I have to be, right? So that's the reason why uh, my logic will never be able to fail on this, because the logic has been designed to where the opposition will always be forced into validating the evil, wicked world as if it's not evil and wicked, right? It would be the opposition would always be forced into the position of having to disprove the notion of how wicked this world is. And that's simply not going to be possible. And in fact, I talked about it a while back, but on a live stream, I got into it with somebody in the chat, and very quickly, that's the part we got to. I said, well, no, I need you to go ahead and make your case that evil doesn't exist. And the first thing they did was they try to ignore it. And I'm like, no, I'm going to need you to, I'm going to hear your case for why evil doesn't exist. And then this is how these people are. Only after I repeatedly insisted and just refused to move on, finally they said, oh, no, I agree that evil exists. I said, well, then you don't have an argument. I said, your entire argument's based on the idea that evil doesn't exist. So then what are you? Oh, okay, it's just they're gaslighting me. I was being gaslit if I'm dumb enough to internalize. If I'm dumb enough to internalize a spiritual attack that's based on the idea that evil does not exist. You want to talk about wise as serpents, by the way. There's that, by the way. You want to talk about wise as serpents. Imagine evil spiritually attacking you based on the idea of getting you to internalize a spiritual attack that's based on the notion that evil itself does not exist. And that's how cunning the adversary is, right? But I'm way smarter than the adversary, as it turns out. Isn't that interesting? In the long run, maybe not in the short term. Yeah, definitely in the long run. Because again, I can't fear that. So a lot of people say, oh no, watch out. Do your worst, demons. Do your worst, Satan. Do your worst, evil. Because what I am can't be touched by none of that. What I am can't fear, much less get into specific fears around demons and evil and wickedness. And the fact is, most people just ain't shit, man. They're really not. And, I've been doing that for a long time. And it's funny, people think I'm negative and I'm this and I'm that. I'm actually way more fucking optimistic about individuals than I probably should be. I'm actually starting to become a little bit more pessimistic. Now, I still see the potential there. It's just now what I see is that most people they're never going to bother, to actually do anything with that potential. Again, even assuming that they, are what I am in the first place. And see, I don't, there's no value in, well, now I'm just better, by comparison. It's like, well, these people have no ability. They've demonstrated no ability. You can't divide by zero. The fact that I might be doing okay compared to, people of no attainment, that's who cares, right? Like I told my dad one time, he got to thinking I was bragging about spiritual attainment or whatever, and I finally just told him, I said, listen, man, if I'm a 1 out of 10 and you're a 0, I said, what? You can't even measure that distance. I said, I'm not out here bragging like I'm highfalutin. I said, it's just that he was internalizing and he was taking it as like, now he lacks something because I was demonstrating some ability. And it's like, wait a minute, if I've worked on myself and you haven't, and I've worked myself into a 1 from a 0 and you're still at a 0, I mean, what the hell has that got to do with me? I know. People don't like hearing it, but guess what? I also don't like. There's a lot of things I also don't like, right? It's all kinds of things I don't like. So what? Again, we're back to preference. And people will absolutely make their preferences my problem to whatever degree I'm willing to accept that. And for me, it's basically none. Like, yeah, that's their preference. So what's that got to do with me? And also, I try not to talk about it too much because I don't want to make it too personal, but um, the world has changed in that I don't know if social media did it, but people's facial characteristics have become way. Now, I'm sure they've always been important, but the emphasis on facial attractiveness simply did not exist in the past like it does now. Because I'm getting people respond to me way different than they ever did, and it's based on my facial attractiveness. It just is. I mean, it's just a fucking fact. You can make fun of me all you want. Uh, what a person looks like in a picture and what they look like in person is not the same thing. I can assure you. I could probably actually, I do have some talents and abilities, and, physical appearance. I probably could, see, I can't. I can't make something of myself in this world. Because what I am can never value, it knows the value of delusion. It knows that delusion can never have a value. Like Christ, like Jesus in the desert, getting offered the kingdoms of the world or whatever. That wasn't no temptation. Jesus Jesus knew the delusory nature of the realm. I think Jesus, what do you mean? None of that's worth anything anyway. Now, I know that's not what he responded, but that's basically what we're talking about. I guess he could have just said, well, you can't take it with you. Anyway, I apologize for talking about my looks, but I forget sometimes. And then I'm like, oh, that's right. And it got real bad because I had longer hair. The long hair definitely magnifies it. I finally cut my hair off, and part of it, honestly, I don't like that type of attention. I really don't. I don't like getting all that attention because I'm telling you, I never got near as much in the past as I get now. I haven't changed. Society's changed. People are. It's got to be social media. People are paying way more attention, and I'm seeing way more people, especially the younger people, talking about just how important facial look, especially for guys, right? A lot of it's males. A lot of this is male centric, and I'm telling you, man, it did not used to be that way. So just that's bizarre to me. It's like what? Huh? It's fucking strange. Yeah. So I was walking in the park yesterday, and there's these at least one. There's a pair of black crackheads. Well, actually, I think they're meth heads, but you know, drug users. They hang out in this park a lot, and I don't have nothing to do with them. And I don't know what was wrong with them, but one of them by himself, I could tell he was trying to creep on me near the bathrooms, trying to talk to me. And I've just never talked to these people. I'll just ignore them like they don't exist. And we've seen each other around a bazillion times. So they changed they changed the direction they were walking to where I was going to intercept them on the sidewalk. Like we were just going to perfectly run into each other on the sidewalk. And like I say, I just avoid them. I took one look at them and just immediately knew, okay, I'll never have nothing to do with them, and avoided them. So I had to slow down my body movements, and I made a turn, and I walked through the grass to get back onto like the main walkway in the park instead of on the sidewalk. And man, when I tell you how beautiful this woman was, this is Los Angeles, y'all. This ain't bumfuck middle of the country. When I say this chick was a 9, I'm talking about an LA 9. Okay. So it's a 10 out of 10 wherever you're from. Wherever you're from ain't got no 10. It's a LA 9. And this was not my intention, but I guess she thought I had noticed her, which I had, but that's not why I changed direction. And she stopped like she thought I was going to talk to her. And I was like, and you could tell like she had some anticipation around, like, I guess thinking she was going to get approached or whatever. And I just was looking at her like, oh my God, like she just, and I don't even talk about out of my league or whatever. It's just like, I forget. So it's like, oh, that's right. I am that good looking. Like I just forget. Like, oh shit. And that doesn't mean she wanted to date me or whatever. She might have just wanted some attention. You know, that's fine. But and I kind of felt bad because it was like, you know, I was in the, I can't explain to her, well, actually, I'm just avoiding those two fucking, street level, you know, drug users over there. You know, but just, I mean, unbelievable. I mean, if it's a woman, I mean, who even knows, right? That's another thing about 2025. Hell, it could have been a dude. Who the fuck knows? Asian, but yeah, probably a one, probably an actual one, probably an actual one, most likely. But I wasn't. Not the only part that surprised me was like, oh, wait a minute. Like I am, if I was about this world, and if I was about, you know, defining myself in relation to this world. Like, dude, I'm in LA. My grandfather was famous for playing for the fucking Los Angeles Rams, one of the best players they ever had. You know, I'm walking around and LA Nines are wanting me to talk to them, right? I mean, for real. And I come on here and you know, I'm intelligent in certain ways, and you know, I'm pretty fucking sure that if I wanted to, I probably could have made something of myself in this world, right? But not while simultaneously understanding that this world has no value, that it because it's a delusion and therefore it can never have substance. See, I've probably always known that on some level the whole way through, right? And then, yeah, did I do, you know, a lot of what other folks did as a younger person, trying to go along to get along and all of that? Yeah, sure, of course. You know, and it, you know, obviously took me a long ass time to get to this present level of understanding, which is certainly only going to increase, you know. Fuck. Man, I've been back on the cannabis. I love these vape pens, except for one thing, man. You can't really carry them in your pocket because at some point they end up upside down. And now it's like, even though it doesn't leak, it's just none of the oil is where it's supposed to be. You know, gigantic fucking air bubbles, you know. Other than that, works great. But yeah, my brain needed a break. That's what the thread title's about. Cannabis definitely turns my brain off for the most part. So I needed a break. I needed that break. Been a little too much of little too much of using the old noggin in the if anybody remembers. I guess pretty much all the streams, all the live streams after I started talking about the true knowledge of self. Pretty much all of those streams. I mean, it's good to go that deep, but at a certain point, it's like, yo, brain drain. A little too much of the brain drain. Anyway, I guess I'm going to hit this vape a little bit. If it'll cooperate. You know, I realize also about my life, I've never really cared that much about being accepted. Now, as a human, you know, everybody has those, you know, a certain emotional makeup and all of that around, you know, rejection and acceptance and all of this. But now, as a young person, a lot of that for me was accomplished by tending, you know, generally being, you know, a tone setter or a leader in the group or whatever. You know, a lot of times the catalyst or, you know, sort of the driving force of a lot of the social interactions. But, you know, the more I think about it, I'm just not sure I ever really gave a fuck if people accepted me or not, you know? And I don't know that that's narcissism, but, you know, you know, maybe I've had a suspicion all along that I, you know, may have in fact, you know, what I now know myself to be was in fact true all along, right? It's like, yeah, I am fucking awesome. Of course, how could I not be? Right? How could I not be fucking awesome? Well, and see, this is interesting. The kingdom of God is not of this realm. And so when I listen to a lot of the discourse from especially some of the people in the so-called truth community that align themselves with Christianity, you know, when I listen to them, at some point they're going to bring everything back to notions around, you know, doing whatever is possible to, you know, not to make the world a better place necessarily, but at least, you know, whatever the person is able to do in their own life, right? But it's like, yeah, that's still not, you know, that's still in it within a delusion, right? I mean, what good is it within a delusion? So this is where I still see people identifying with, again, America as a country in relation to other countries, right? You know, whatever American culture may be, you know, or you know, whatever white people are on about, you know. Which thank God I'm Southern. I don't ever fully fit into that. But it's a subtle point. But it's, you know, what I see is people, you know, what I see is almost everybody is strongly identified with the validity of this realm as if it's redeemable. See, this is back that which is, this is back to what we were just talking about. The Christians of the so-called truth community tend to refer to the realm and interact with the realm as if it could be redeemed, right? Or maybe some notion that, well, it was created originally one type of way, and then through corruption, it's changed into what it is now. But then, an idea that when it originally came into being, it had a redemptive value. No, it came into being as a delusion with no substance and nothing redeemable. That's its nature. That's what this place is, right? It was never some magical paradise, Garden of Eden, where everything was perfect, right? Because now, does that exist somewhere, whatever that is? Yeah, but that not within a delusion, right? Not within a delusion. Or it could exist within a delusion, but it wouldn't be real, right? So, what value could there ever be in efforts directed towards, oh, well, I'm going to get involved in my local community, and I'm just going to try to make them, slightly less progressive or whatever, or, have cultural and political strife, with the neighbors or whatever. Which, and again, it's standing up for one's right to choose how they want to live, right? I have no beef with that on either side of the coin. Yeah, I'm looking at this vape, man. It's the problem is it's mostly full, but dude, once they've been upside down too long, it just fucks them all up. They still hit, but it's just not the same. Just is not the same after that. Fuck. And it changes the way it's a mix, it's a mixture. So, now it's because of the air bubbles. Like, how do I even know what part of the mixture I'm hitting? Crazy. I would just go buy another one, except fuck, I'll just do the same thing to the new one. What's the point? And then a lot of what I'm talking about with this idea of reformation or doing something in the world or whatever that is, um, a lot of that I think is based on this bullshit we hear about. Well, you can't just do nothing, right? Again, what is that? That's yang, that's masculine, that's assertive, that's dominant, right? So just the idea, well, you can't do nothing. It's like, well, you can't just lay back and see what happens and submit and surrender, right? And access the passive yin feminine energy. You can't do that, right? Because that would be to do nothing, and that would be shame. Again, shame. See how quickly we get back to shame? Because that's when it's a game. As soon as I hear, well, you can't just do nothing, and we hear that politically a lot. And I don't mean we like a group. I just mean people. I should say, one hears that regularly, right? Well, you can't just do nothing, or society has to do something, or a family has to do something. Whatever group is being acknowledged can't just do nothing, right? But look how quickly we get to the shame of what? Sitting idle, right? What is sitting idle? Sitting idle is refusing to make rich people richer every moment into perpetuity. Again, what wouldn't Jesus do, right? So if Jesus was offered a choice between, quote, doing nothing, air quotes, doing nothing, or serving big business, the stock market, rich people, corporations, right? Is Jesus going to let the fear, the guilt, and the shame cause him to conform with societal expectations? I'm pretty sure Jesus wouldn't do that. See? It's not what would Jesus do, it's what wouldn't Jesus do. And all I have to do to figure that out is watch, pretty much just pluck me a someone who claims to be a Christian at random, and I'll just watch them, and I'll just be all day. Well, Jesus wouldn't do that. Jesus wouldn't do that. Jesus wouldn't do that. Jesus wouldn't do that. Right now, who knows? Maybe at some point, old Benton here will. And again, this is a performance. This is what I started to say earlier. You know, what I am within this delusion, and this is again back to the computer simulation aspects. I'm delivering a performance, right? And wouldn't the source of all creation, doesn't that sound like a born performer, right? Whatever supposedly made this place. Some might call it a masterpiece in certain ways, right? Lovers of nature and scenery and all of this. What do you think? See, I know this is one of the surreal aspects for me is I know I'm giving a performance. So, you know, at some point in the future, I probably won't get the credit, but at some point in the future, it's possible that if one were viewing Mr. Benton's performance, and if it was viewed through the lens of what wouldn't Jesus do, then one could potentially observe my performance and say, wow, look at that. He's not doing anything that Jesus wouldn't do. We're Jesus here in 2025. But what I would say is logically, you know, it can never hold water logically that, hang on, let me see if I can make this light real quick. You know, the fact that one is here, right? Whatever that is, but the fact that one is seemingly here in the present moment in 2025, having these experiences, doing these things, living in this world as I've described, you know, as a realm of business and all of this adversarial realm of business. You know, it's difficult for people to accept that logically the fact that it seems to be happening in no way validates the place or the experience itself. That it doesn't validate it based on the merits of the activities, right? Or some notion of, well, this is just, you know, people have existed for a period of time and, you know, history has moved on. And, you know, Ben Benton was here and, you know, there has to be some validity to society and all of these things because of a notion of progression, right? That, you know, in some way to measure the choices of humans over time. And I'm to say that I'm not willing to just accept that out of hand and just say, oh, well, yeah, of course. Right. And in fact, I would choose I would probably not want to go with that notion unless I was able to validate it logically. But then that's one of those question everythings that is not supposed to be questioned, right? Because that's just taken for granted. The validity of society and a terra firma, right? And a nation and a continent and all of this. Just because it's here seemingly and it's happening seemingly, what does that have to say about the validity or the lack thereof? Right? When I say valid, I mean something that could be upheld as an example in a vacuum of like, hey, these achievements is something to be proud of, and like we would want for people and beings and observers to experience how awesome Earth is or whatever, right? Like that's what I mean by valid. So I'm not willing to sign off on the idea of a country called America, right? A continent of North America, this cultural group, that cultural group, man and the system of laws and all of these things. I'm not willing to sign off on the validity of that solely based on the fact that it seems to exist, because I know that what I am is so powerful that it could create all of this in an instant as a delusion lacking substance. And it would be child's play to that force. And that's where I believe we get into the notions around waking dream, surrealism, and unreality. Yeah, I think that refers to the aspects of the realm that seem like I'm having a dream, but I know I'm awake, right? Or the dictionary definition of the word surreal, surreal. And I'm not here to harp on people's school knowledge, their book reading, but the fact is, many folks will never be able to reach some of the levels I'm reaching and have reached and will continue to reach until they understand the meanings of a lot of these words. And the only reason I know the meanings of these words is I read a fuckload of books starting from a very young age. Right. And it wasn't that book reading was cool, quite the opposite. It wasn't that, certain ideas have become popular and now there's people who read certain books for certain reasons, right? Although I'm sure for adults that was a thing. I'm talking about 10-year-old Benton reading everything he could get his motherfucking hands on, including the newspaper every day. Yeah. Take two identical people, except one of them read the newspaper every single day of his life, starting at about age 10. And then the other person who never read the newspaper one time. And then you could have versions in between. Those are two very different people. Okay. And it's not about comparison to me, but it's about the fact that it's to remind myself that a lot of what I'm on about here is just simply not possible for the majority of you. It's just not. Your mind will never be able to operate the way mine does. And that's okay. Because most people will never, ever put out 1% of the effort I put out to get to the point that I am now. And then I continue to put out on a daily basis. See, that's my productivity. But see, all benefits accrue to me and only me, right? It's like being really fucking good looking, except I'm the only one who knows. And then sometimes I forget, right? Or it's just like being really, really, really way better than most people in a certain way, except not only can they not really, it's basically they're never going to be willing to admit it. Like they're much of their entire existence depends on them not being able to admit it, right? That I could be that vastly superior to them in certain ways, and I am. I'm vastly superior to most people when it comes to my ability to perform. To perform. I don't mean in any other way than the performance. Now, immediately, what will happen is, well, he doesn't have any money. What's his vocation? What's his job? Aha! The system just offered me yet again. Hello, sir. Would you accept this? Would you like to opt into identifying and viewing yourself in relation to this delusory system of business? Do you see how quickly? Do you see how the system will just humor me and stroke my little ego, and then wait, and then as soon as the time is right, it'd be like, but wait a minute, how can you be so high level and you don't have any money? Right? How's that possible? Again, what wouldn't Jesus do? Probably wouldn't be mobbing around with a bunch of money on him. I'm assuming. Can't hard to say for sure, but I'm just guessing. I don't know. If you tried to give him some, would he take it? Did anybody ever try to give Jesus any money in the Bible? I think maybe at some point he was telling people to collect some money for a purpose, maybe. I don't know. Almsgiving, almsgiving. Been going for 3 hours. Damn. What time is it? It's about time for me to go eat something. Can't be that late, though. All right. Hang on. Let's see if the one phone charged up enough yet. Now the other phone needs charging. Yeah, we're going to have to wrap up fairly soon, but not quite yet. This vape cartridge is just fucked. So I could have swore I paid this already. I'm getting a domain renewal notice on Nightmare Dystopia. I'm almost certain I paid for that already. All right, am I here? Bear with me, folks. We'll get on the topic. Excuse me. Woo! Damn it. Super lemon haze. Oh, you want to talk about the anxiety? No anxiety. I've been vaping sativas. And in fact, I didn't even think about this, but I mentioned something to one of the bud tenders, and she said something about anxiety with the sativas. And that's when it hit me. Oh, I'm been smoking all this sativa, no anxiety. And I used to be such a pothead that I just fucking smoked through the anxiety, if that makes sense. Just like, yeah, just kind of part of the project. Just sort of came with it, you know. Neither here nor there at a certain point. But it might be a reason not to, you know, go headlong into sativas. But yeah, now I'm smoking all this sativa, no fucking anxiety, no paranoia, nothing. Just a turning off of the brain. Yeah, I'm in LA, Razvan. Can't say for sure, but probably stay here for a while because mainly the weather. But I've been toying with going for a long walk. So that may happen in the near future. But yeah, thanks, Razvan. It's all blessings, my brother. It's all blessings. Yeah, try not to make too many plans for the future. Don't see too much of a reason to bother. But I do, the idea of walking every day certainly seems attractive. But all right, I guess I'm going to get out of here. Thanks for watching. Bye.